everyone. Welcome all. Thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio, your guide to films playing at the Art House for the week of November 1st to November 7th. I'm your host, Aaron Spears.
And I'm Dave Huffman, Director of Marketing for Cleveland Cinemas. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing Parasite, Jojo Rabbit, and Harriet.
But first up is our newest segment of the show at the top of the show here. It's the Movie of the Week, a movie that we've seen this week that we are absolutely recommending to anyone listening out there. Dave, do you want to start off this week?
I sure do. It's one of the movies I was most excited for seeing this entire year, which was The Lighthouse.
Hey, me too.
And I finally got to see it, and it did not disappoint. It completely delivered, if not even exceeded my expectations. I just thought it was a great kind of dark comedy, psychological horror movie, thriller.
Yes.
I don't even know how you categorize that movie because it's not really like too many other things I've ever seen. So it's its own unique thing with a fantastic Oscar-worthy performance by Willem Dafoe.
Performances, I would say.
Well, but I'm saying I think his performance specifically is like, you know, it's just a fantastic, unique performance. And I think, Robert Pattinson did a great job as well, but to me, Willem Dafoe is amazing in that movie. And I think the only thing that's going to hurt his Oscar chances is the fact that he's not playing a real person, since it seems like the Academy only ever wants to award Oscars for people playing real people.
That's true.
And that kind of drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because it feels like the acting branch can only recognize a good performance whenever they go, oh yeah, they did a good job of pretending to be that person that I know who they are. So this is just a really great movie, and definitely one that should be seen in the theater with the beautiful black and white photography. It's just a great movie.
Well, that is my movie of the week as well, because it's one of those, when I was leaving the theater with the buddy that I saw it with, we were discussing how it's probably a term that's been used before, but it's very experiential. Like, it needs to be seen and felt, but also like you need to be able to look around when it's done in the theater and just be like, do we all just experience that? That was incredible. It's one of those, like, it came about because I said, I'm going to remember where I was at watching this movie the way I remember the theater I was at when I saw like Requiem for a Dream the first time, or like it's just one of those films that like it sticks with. Maybe not, the intensity levels are different. I'm not comparing those two in any other way than like I remember the first time I saw those films because it's such an experience.
It leaves a mark, yes.
It does. Yeah, we were trying to kind of compare it because we were thinking like it's about the mental collapse of these two guys and like their psychological degradation as they just experience the most intense isolation, filmed in a long time on film. So we were thinking like, well, it's kind of like The Shining. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't have that like, like the woo-woo, like supernatural kind of thing that The Shining's got going on. So like my brain as a film geek wants to compare it to other movies, but then like it really doesn't hold up because it's so unique on its own, and it builds so well too. We're like within the first like 20-30 minutes I was loving the photography, I was loving the performances, the music, the score to it. God, that foghorn that keeps going off. The gulls, they're still like my least favorite birds ever, but it's a slow burn. Like the first 20-25 minutes I'm like, okay, what's all the hype about? Like, it's really good, but like it didn't grab you. But yeah, you have to get to know their routine, you have to get to know these characters, and Robert Pattinson, I'm not even sure, says more than a sentence for like 45 minutes.
He's pretty much just there's a lot of silence there towards the beginning, and it is just him kind of being subordinate to, as the slow pressure builds up, to Willem Dafoe. And it is like you said, it is definitely an experience, and the use of sound in that movie is amazing.
It really
Everything
is.
about it. And I know in a previous episode you were talking about wondering why there are so many people credited for effects in that movie.
Yeah, the visual effects,
after seeing it, I totally know why now, because there is a lot of effects in it, but not in a flashy sort of effects way. But you can tell that they had to do a lot of special effects.
Not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of way of effects. Like, it all services the plot and the story for what, the elements that I can make sense of. There's still a few things I'm working through in my head. But I was also glad you mentioned the comedy, because we were kind of discussing it and talking the movie through after we saw it. And I was like, I feel like there's the thing that's going to get overlooked. You focus on the intensity, the performances, the some of the crazier aspects of the story, but like we laughed out loud a bunch watching that movie. And there are zingers and one-liners that you're like, I can't believe that there's even moments where like it shifts in the same scene, like second to second, of like very intense, and all of a sudden like I'm just laughing out loud because it shifts tone so deftly that you just kind of go with it, and it really works. Which I would.
So basically, we're both saying go see the Lighthouse.
Yeah.
And it is going to be continuing, obviously, here at the Cedar Lee, and it is going to be expanding, opening at Chagrin starting this Friday as well.
Excellent. Well, that's also weird, too, because it's definitely like, to me, like it is the definition of like an art house movie.
Oh yeah,
but like it, we saw it at a mainstream theater because it was convenient. It's by my house and it was at the right showtime. I was like, this is playing at multiplexes. Which is great, and there was a really good crowd for it too. But I was like,
right,
I don't understand how what's getting people out. Is it the director? Is it Robert Pattinson? Is it Willem Dafoe? Is it just the right combination of the time of year? And it's kind of a eerie
just
story.
I think the general buzz, and while a lot of people, The Witch was a divisive film. The people that liked The Witch and got The Witch totally loved it and couldn't wait to see this director's next film. And he's certainly an amazing filmmaker whose every movie from now on, I'm just going to be like, when is that coming out? Because he's brilliant.
Well, just to tease that a little bit, did you see the announcement? He's working on a Nosferatu remake?
I did,
in his future. So I was like, oh, so perfect.
It is. And, it's fascinating, like when you think back to like when Herzog remade Nosferatu.
Yeah.
And of course, I was too young to have had any. I mean, I didn't see Nosferatu at the time. I didn't see it till later. But it's one of those things where you think about someone remaking a classic and thinking, oh, you should never. Why would you remake a classic? But then you see when the right director puts their own kind of twisted stamp on it, you're like, no, that could be amazing.
Yeah.
So I think
you go from like
an even.
Your film geek guard being up and like, how dare you? And then all of a sudden, you're like, when it syncs up, it's the right person. You're like, I can't wait.
Can't wait.
Well, the new films we have opening this week here at the theater, there's no shortage of, I would say, awards buzz. This is the season for all of the buzz right now. So we're going to jump right in with the new film from co-writer and director Bong Joon-ho. It is Parasite, his Cannes Film Festival Palme d'Or winning film. All unemployed, Ki-taek's family takes a peculiar interest in the wealthy and glamorous parks for their livelihood until they get entangled in an unexpected incident.
So this is one of those movies that even before it played at Cannes, I was excited to see just because he's a director that I love.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Snowpiercer's amazing. The Host is amazing. He's just a fantastic filmmaker, and I think we both love kind of Korean. There's something about some of the Korean filmmakers that at least their films make their way over here to the States.
South Korean,
yes. Yes, thank you.
We don't know.
South Korean filmmakers. You're right. No, but those filmmakers, there's something about them that I just love. Like when I find that the film is from South Korea, I'm more interested in seeing it because there's just something about the style of it or something about it. I just really click with their films. And this movie, I just cannot wait to see. And it kind of pains me that I haven't seen it yet. So much for me being able to, have access to stuff.
I'll say that's a unique pain for you in your job, though. That the listening audience.
I'm spoiled.
We don't really share with you, but sorry, Dave, you didn't get to see it 2 weeks ago.
I know. Well, I missed the screen. I couldn't go the day that we had the screening, so I had to miss it. And but yeah, it is an amazing. He's an amazing filmmaker, and every person that I know that has seen it. And every review that you read about it, basically people are throwing around the word masterpiece and, best of the decade, not even like best of the year. So it's one of those films that has such advanced buzz and expectations that as high as my expectations are for this film, I feel like they're going to be met and if not exceeded. So I can't wait to see it.
I'll say there's that fine line, though, of like, oh, is this going to live up to the expectations? Or are you getting your expectations a little too high? Or... is it worth tempering expectations so that you're not disappointed?
I don't know. My expectations for the Lighthouse were extremely high, and they were exceeded. So I'm optimistic that'll happen 2 weeks in a row.
True. It's also, like the buzzwords that you were saying that most of the critics that I follow keep throwing around for Parasite, it sounds very similar to me in the build-up to Roma. Where it was coming out like modern masterpiece, one of the best films from this, said country, in years. Right now, I was just checking Metacritic has got for the ranked films of 2019. Parasite is tied with Marriage Story, Noah Baumbach's film that's coming soon to viewers. They're both at 95 on Metacritic, and like you said, it's all the pre-release hype couldn't be stronger. It's even getting some critics talking about how like this is the best picture Oscar race has started, and Parasite right now is at the top of the list for that, which is always great to hear when it's a foreign film as well.
Right, when it's a foreign film because it rarely happens. Well, the next film that we've got opening up is another film that has tremendous advance buzz, and that is Jojo Rabbit, adapted and directed by Taika Waititi. This is the story about Jojo, a lonely German boy whose worldview is turned upside down when he discovers his single mother is hiding a young Jewish girl in their attic. Aided by his idiotic imaginary friend Adolf Hitler, Jojo must confront his blind nationalism.
Hi. You know what I am? Say it. A Jew. Gesundheit.
Sheesh, that was intense.
What am I going to do?
No idea.
Got it! I will
Burn
negotiate.
down the house and blame Winston Churchill. Or negotiate.
If I tell on you, you'll be in big trouble.
They'll never win.
Love is the strongest thing in the world.
Your mother took me in. She's kind. She treats me like a person.
You two seem to be getting on well.
She doesn't seem like a bad person. I'm the enemy. You're not a Nazi, Jojo. You're a 10-year-old kid who likes dressing up in a funny uniform and wants to be part of a club.
I like how they had to put in the phrase idiotic in the description before. Just like, can't just be imaginary friend Adolf Hitler. Like, we got to make sure everybody knows, hang on, we're making fun here.
If you've seen this trailer, and this movie has gotten, some great awards buzz. It won at the Toronto Film Festival, and it is, but it hasn't gotten universally rave reviews because some people are bothered by sort of, I guess what we could say is the politics of it.
Right.
But it is certainly not a pro-Hitler movie. It is,
right.
Satirizing him, but people are definitely kind of questioning some of those aspects of the film. I've seen this one, and I think it completely worked. I thought it was what a tremendous tightrope to walk, where you're balancing getting laughs out of potentially the worst human being that's ever walked the face of the earth, and also having this real genuine emotion and pathos to this film about this little boy and his mom and the things that they go through. And it's just another unique way to tell yet another World War II story.
World War II story,
we keep saying, there's just so many of them. And this is just, it's a very unique movie. You've never seen another movie like Jojo Rabbit that, sort of balances laughter at the expense of something, at a monster, so.
It is that, like you said, that fine line there, which a few filmmakers have been able to do before. Like my first thought when I saw this trailer was like, oh, well, Mel Brooks and the producers, because my dad was a big Mel Brooks fan, so I watched that a ton growing up. And, that's I think it was a bit easier and safer comedy because it's like not actually Hitler. It's just making fun of in the modern era, Hitler isn't a character, I guess is what I'm saying there. But then you also have like Life is Beautiful, which is more recent example of it, and had at the time, the whole Miramax machine going in the late 90s to push that out into theaters and get that, widely accepted and also widely watched. And like you said, that has kind of a different kind of structure. It's not, it's comedic, but it's not, I wouldn't say overtly a comedy. It's more, dramatic and tragic. This one, since you've seen it, does it skeer more towards comedy or satire?
Right down the middle. I mean, it is probably more a comedy than it is not a comedy, but it is also, when it needs to be serious and has these tragic, dark moments, they work. So it is, but it's definitely got some broad comedy stuff in it. Sam Rockwell is in it as well, and his character is this sort of, reads sort of as a closeted gay SS officer that just everything is, I think SS, it might not be the SS, but just keeps, getting demoted through terrible instances of his own doing or otherwise, and it's just played for laughs.
Right.
So it's not like Hogan's Heroes kind of like
kind of comedy, right?
Buffoons, but it's just a very different take on it, and they are just kind of satirizing that sort of blind nationalism that led to the greatest tragedy this world's ever seen.
And then back in the real world, having won the Audience Award at Toronto Film Festival. We mentioned on a few other shows, but like the track record that Toronto has had over the last few years, 2016, La La Land got that award. Obviously, there was the debacle at the Oscars where people thought La La Land won for a moment, but didn't. Thank goodness it went to Moonlight. But 17 and 18, you had 3 Billboards and Green Book, which are both Audience Award winners, the number 1 winners at Toronto that went on to win Best Picture. So like, for some reason, like the audience, whatever's going on in Toronto, that Audience Award, voting style is really in sync with the Oscars recently. And I did look up because they kind of do ranks at Toronto. So the number 2 movie was Marriage Story this year, and the number 3 movie was Parasite. So any one of those 3 films that came out of Toronto, obviously Jojo winning the top award, all are the ones that people are buzzing about, saying like, these are some of the clear frontrunners for Best Picture so far.
Well, I don't want to be a jerk, Aaron, but actually 3 Billboards was nominated for an Oscar, but it actually just it didn't win Best Picture.
That year
Shape of Water won.
Oh, Shape of Water, right.
Yeah.
Well, either way, Shape of Water was also a hit out of Toronto. It debuted in the theater it was shot in and all that other stuff,
but
too.
Green
Book
did win both, yeah.
Right,
but you're right. That it's almost always, it has been recently very true that whatever wins the Audience Award of Toronto is at least getting a Best Picture nomination.
Right.
So if you're one of those people that looks forward to checking off every movie that you've seen that's Oscar nominated, make sure you see Jojo Rabbit now because it's likely to get a Best Picture nomination.
Well, actually, see it now. Then you can brag that, like, I saw it when it was first released in theaters, not when it came back to theaters in February when you all are seeing it. So get in early. The third and last film opening this week is the new film from co-writer and director Cassie Lemmons. It is Harriet, the extraordinary tale of Harriet Tubman's escape from slavery and transformation into one of America's greatest heroes whose courage, ingenuity, and tenacity freed hundreds of slaves and changed the course of American history.
There's not much time. You got to be miles away from here for dawn. Where is she? Follow that North Star. If there are no stars, just follow the river. Listen for them. Fear is your enemy. Whoa, easy now.
I'm gonna be free or die.
I don't know if you know how extraordinary this is, but you have made it 100 miles to freedom all by yourself. Would you like to pick a new name to mark your freedom?
Harriet Tubman.
You are welcome here anytime.
If I'm free, my family should be too. I made up my mind, I'm going back.
You're confident, composed. When trouble comes, you'll be ready.
Now, Dave, you and I are both old enough that when Cassie Lemmons had her directorial debut back in '97, Eve's Bayou, do you remember, were you watching like the Siskel and Ebert show at the time? Because Ebert he gushed and gushed, rightfully so, about Eve's Bayou.
About it. Yep.
Which was why I went to the theaters to see that one as soon as I could, and was not disappointed.
No, it was a great movie, and sadly, she hasn't made as many movies as you'd like her to make. She has not had as many based on that debut, and I think there is obviously, as we all know, it's been harder for female directors to get projects made, historically speaking, let alone a woman of color in Hollywood. So I think that if she had been, a straight white guy who made Eve's Bayou, she would have.
I don't know if Eve's Bayou would really be the same.
Well, but you know what I'm saying.
It,
a film of that caliber.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
Like, people would have just been throwing money at her and all this stuff, but she hasn't had the follow-up career that you would expect after such an auspicious debut. So it's great to see her back, and obviously this film has a lot of buzz coming into it. It's a story that's historically important here in America, and certainly people are familiar with it, so I think the film's going to do pretty well theatrically, and we already have a lot of school groups and things like that are coming to see it.
I'll say it screams school groups. I was reading an interview with Cassie Lemmons, and she described the way she made Harriet is she wanted to make a film for sophisticated 10-year-olds to be able to go watch with their grandma. So like multi-generational, get a conversation going, but it is PG-13, which it did upset me a little bit because the Harriet Tubman story is crazy. You could really do a whole biopic, and it would be very action-packed. The things that she was doing during the Civil War, the whole Underground Railroad, she just kept going back again and again, and there's just this desire to spread freedom and share freedom to her family, her friends, anybody that she could get to freedom, and then also marshal troops, and actually was working with the Union Army and trying to take down the institution of slavery during the Civil War. Like, it's an action movie, but that wasn't exactly the route she went. It is PG-13, like she said, because this isn't one of those, you don't want to alienate the 10-year-olds by having an intense R-rated thing with, the full visual horrors of slavery, and then the battles of, or the horrors of war as well on top of that. So I was a little surprised this hasn't ever been made before. Like, it's just one of those stories that, why aren't there like 9 Harriet Tubman movies throughout film history?
Yeah, you're right. It is surprising, and I think that says a lot about the types of films that people used to prioritize.
That's true,
nice
yeah.
to see that things are changing.
Yeah.
And I'm also excited, the lead actress in this, Cynthia Erivo, she was in one of my favorite movies of last year, Bad Times at the El Royale.
Oh, right.
She played the singer in that movie. That was, she was just a great kind of quiet sort of performance in that. So I'm very interested in seeing her delivering a different kind of intensity on screen. So I'm curious about her because I'm not that familiar with her yet as an actress, but I loved her in that in the first film that I saw her in. And of course, Harriet is also playing at our Capitol Theater and Chagrin Cinemas, as well as the Cedar Lee. And
we'll be right back with the special events this week at the theater. Well, special events are becoming a bigger and bigger portion of the modern theatrical programming environment, so we want to take a little time here to let you know about the events that we have coming up this week at the theater. The first one up is a Fathom Events. Dan TDM presents The Contest. This is Saturday, November 2nd at 12:55 p.m. This is an interactive in-cinema event that provides Dan TDM's fans. If you're aware of him, this is an event for you. If you don't know who I'm talking about, it's probably not an event for you. Anyway, Dan TDM's fans, with this will be a very engaging gaming in the theater immersive story experience. This will also be showing at Chagrin Cinemas as well. Again, Saturday, November 2nd at 12:55 p.m.
And this weekend, we're showing one of my personal favorite movies as part of our Melt Barn Grilled Late Shift. That is Harold and Maude, the classic comedy by Hal Ashby starring Ruth Gordon and Bud Cort. And that is going to be playing Saturday, November 2nd at 9:30 p.m. and midnight, and then Sunday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. And if you've never seen this incredibly great black comedy, I can't recommend it enough. It is the ultimate sort of, May to December romance, only with a gender switched. You've got an 18-year-old, 18-year-old man falling in love with an 80-year-old woman, and it is just one of the funniest, most touching movies with a great score by Cat Stevens.
Speaking of a fine line, we were saying with Jojo Rabbit, like between drama, comedy, and knowing like kind of how to strike the right tonal balance, Harold and Maude probably should be a disaster of a tonal movie, but it is pitch perfect in every scene.
Yeah, it's an amazing, amazing movie. Truly one of the best films of the 70s.
And speaking of one of the best films of the 70s, well, I guess you can
at least one of the most
enduring films of the 70s.
Yes, the most enduring films of the 70s.
Yeah. The Melt Barn Grilled Late Shift also is presenting the Rocky Horror Picture Show Saturday, November 2nd at midnight or 11:59 p.m. on Saturday, if that helps you out there, with obviously the live show from Simply as Servants. If you weren't out for the pre-Halloween show this past weekend, come to the quick, couple-day post-Halloween show on November 2nd and enjoy the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Then we have another Fathom event, which is The Divine Plan. This is a new documentary about the relationship between Ronald Reagan and Pope John Paul II and the work they did to end this Cold War. That's going to be playing Wednesday, November 6th at 7 p.m. And in addition to playing here at the Cedar Lee, it's also at our sister theater, Chagrin Cinemas.
Fathom Events also presents Lynyrd Skynyrd, Last of the Street Survivors, Thursday, November 7th at 7 p.m. This is an exclusive concert film. It features their 2018 hometown stadium performance from Last of the Street Survivors Farewell Tour at TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville, Florida. This is another event that will also be showing at Chagrin Cinemas as well, again on Thursday, November 7th at 7 p.m. And if you're a regular listener and are wondering where our Cedar Lee 3 picks are for this week, follow the links in the show notes or head over to any of our social media accounts where we have posted our picks for Best Palme d'Or winners, inspired this week by Parasite and Bong Joon-ho's winning of the Palme d'Or for that new film that is opening this week at the theater. As always, thank you for tuning in to Cedar Lee Radio and lending us your ears this week. All the music heard on the show is original music written by Grant Heineman and performed by the New Heights Jazz Ensemble, used with their permission, of course. Visit clevelandcinemas.com for correct showtimes and to purchase advance tickets. Also, there are links in the show notes. You can use those if you'd like as well. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Cedar Lee Theater, spelled with an R-E at the end because we're fancy like that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast, and while you're subscribing, leave us a rating and review, or better yet, tell a fellow film geek about the show. We'll see you at the movies.